Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to 87.9 Fast FM. It's not 87.9, it used to be 87.9, subhanAllah. Like clockwork, I always say that. Okay, you're listening to Fast FM, and this is the Niqabi Diaries show with Samar. And we've had a bit of technical difficulties today, unfortunately. So we're having trouble getting our guest into the broadcast for StreamYard. I'm not sure what's happening, but we're really struggling at the moment just to get her mic and everything set up so we can have this discussion, which is today about marriage, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, it's the last week of, the last full week of Ramadan, where it's our last show as well. And yeah, we're having some technical difficulties more than usual. SubhanAllah. Okay. So we're just trying to get her. Just waiting for our guest to join, inshallah. I think she's just entering now. But yeah, we're going to be talking about marriage and especially how to get married as a Muslim in general, but especially as a Niqabi as well, because I think a lot of the time when sisters do wear the Niqab, one of the questions that we often get asked is, well, if you wear the Niqab, how are you going to get married? Or, in fact, how's people going to see your face, or who would want to marry you because nobody can see what you look like? So that's a common thing that people get asked. Let's have a look. Waiting for the sister to join, inshallah. Let's see if she's connecting on Instagram. Okay. So let me just check the comments here. And walaikum salam to everybody that's listening and joined, and apologies for the delay. So yes, inshallah, we're talking about the topic of marriage. So if anybody wants to give their contributions, how did you get married? Are you a Niqabi sister? Do you wear the Niqab? Have you ever worn it? And or has your decision to maybe not wear it been because you want to get married and you feel that it will be a hindrance to you getting married? That's another question. So let us know in the comments, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm so sorry. I don't understand how.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's okay. It's like these technical issues occur all the time. Like when you don't expect them, that's just what happens. Alhamdulillah. But you're here now.
Alhamdulillah.
Are you joining on Insta as well?
Oh yes.
Okay, I'm just going to send the invite to you again on Insta, inshallah. Okay, I think she's disappeared again. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. SubhanAllah. Okay, she's gone again, so I'm not sure what's happening. So yeah, to those of you sisters who are listening, any Niqabis online here on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, have you had any experiences getting married while being a Niqabi, wearing the Niqab? And as well to sisters who don't wear it, if you've thought about wearing it before, have you thought, well, I don't want to wait, I don't want to wear it now because I'm not married yet? Has that been kind of something that's influenced your decision to not wear the Niqab perhaps? Let us know, inshallah, in the comments. It's part of our discussion today, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so in the comments we have, okay, people, mashallah, having their little private conversations. Okay, alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, anyways, we're still waiting for the sister's join. I don't know what's happened. She's having obviously a lot of technical issues. She joined and then she's exited again, so I'm not sure what's happening. I don't have her on Instagram or on the StreamYard feed either, so I don't know what's going on. But inshallah, we're going to talk a little bit about how people get married today, inshallah. So as Muslims, basically, we can't date, okay? So that's common knowledge, obviously. But marriage is something exciting for a lot of us, especially talking about it, because this is it's half of our deen. The Prophet ﷺ told us that getting married is, completing half of your deen, and it's not something that's easy, obviously, for people to do in general, because you're looking to marry somebody that you obviously want somebody that's going to be compatible with you. Inshallah. I think the sister's joined again. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
I'm sorry, I'm just having difficulty. I'm not sure what's going on.
I could tell. I can tell, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, what can we do? What device are you using?
Like my laptop was not going through, so I just had to use my phone to go on StreamYard because I don't know the phone.
Okay, so you're not joining on the Instagram? If you can't join on Instagram, it's okay. We can just leave it as it is, and I'll just because I've got my phone nearby. I think people will be able to hear you a little bit.
Okay, then that's great because my laptop, I don't know what's wrong today.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, my laptops are crazy as well, actually. So we'll just leave it as is, inshallah. Okay. So I think inshallah, people that are on Instagram can hear. If you can hear Sister Najah, who has joined us, if you can hear her, she's not actually in the Instagram video with us today, but she's on the StreamYard, which has got next to me. So if you can hear her well, just let me know, inshallah. Okay, so yeah, Sister Najah, I was just basically talking about obviously how getting married is completing your deen. So in Islam, it's important as well, especially I think as young Muslims, because everybody, like, we can't date in our religion. There's no kind of having girlfriend and boyfriend. These things aren't allowed. And I think sometimes when people are young, wearing hijab generally is seen as, like, in the West, people say, well, it can be difficult, for example, and there's a lot of pressures, social pressures as young people. They want to, they want to have normal lives, they want to have fun, they want to do things that they see others doing. And obviously, in living in the Western culture, part of that is having a girlfriend or a boyfriend, which is not allowed for us. And I think another issue as well we have in the Muslim community is that a lot of parents don't encourage their children to get married at a young age.
Yeah.
So, I want you, inshallah, if you could, to maybe talk about some of your personal experience of getting married, inshallah. Share with us a little bit, because I think you was wearing the niqab when you got married as well. So would you like to introduce yourself for us, actually, just for the listeners a little bit, inshallah?
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Najah.
Don't encourage their children to get married at a young age.
Sorry.
So I want you, inshallah.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. My name is Najah, and I am a blogger. I share about my life before getting married. I went through survival mode years and how I'm able, after leaving my home and getting married and going on a journey of healing myself. And I got a daughter that's 3 years old, and I'm currently a student at university.
Mm-hmm. MashaAllah.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us, like, what was your process of getting married? And because you was wearing the niqab when you got married, so can you just tell us how that went? Because often I've asked the question just before you joined, actually, when you was having the difficulties, but the technical
Yeah.
difficulties. I asked people what are their kind of opinions on getting married with the niqab. Like, have there been any sisters, for example, who have chosen not to wear the niqab because they want to wait till they get married first? Because sometimes that is something that people think, that if you wear the niqab, for example, that you wouldn't be able to actually find a spouse because like nobody can see you, basically. So we obviously, that's related to looks being part of, you
Yeah.
know, getting married. So
Okay, so me personally, like when I went on my journey of practicing the religion, I just want to touch on that bit.
mhm,
I was like 16 years old, and I've never been around Muslim people in generally because I live in North London,
mhm,
and I was only exposed to non-Muslim people. So for me to even wear the hijab was like a big deal for me, and also like my parents never pressured us to wear it or anything else. So
mhm,
that in itself was a big deal, because even when I was gonna wear the hijab like and start praying and all that, like I just felt like no one's seen my hair, no one's seen the way I've like seen me like dressed in a jeans and a top. So how would I even get married as well?
mhm,
But I think like on that journey, like I just kind of left that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I feel like when you built that connection with your creator, you just actually believe that no matter like what you do, I mean, whatever you do, like parts of the religion, that shouldn't actually stop you from a guy liking you and getting married. That's just how my mindset was at the time.
yeah, definitely, yeah,
And and
mhm,
moving forward to that, like I did get like when I started wearing a hijab, I did get like my mom was saying like who's gonna see your face when you're gonna get married. Also I was very young, I was 17, 18, 19, 20. So during those years that did used to pop up on my mind. Like no one could see my face. So how was the guy gonna see me and marry me basically? Because obviously like the person would need to see your face. Yeah, so for me, Jenny, I wasn't a sort of girl that's when I started practicing, I wasn't that sort of girl that used to even communicate with guys on my phone and stuff like that. So for me, like I knew when it was time for me to get married and stuff, like I knew like Allah will provide me that husband when the time is written for me to get married. So I just obviously like I had my brother, like he did look into other brothers, his friends and stuff like that to kind of approach me for marriage. And I would actually have like a meetings in my home where they could see my face, and we'll conduct meetings like that. Yeah, so I had that kind of even though I didn't get married through my brother's friends, I had like there's like pure matrimony website
okay,
where you can for single people who are practicing, who are looking to get married. And I just went on there on that site, and then 3 months after I got to know my husband that I'm married to now through that, and we started just communicating. The one thing I liked about my husband, well, at the time he wasn't my husband, but the one thing that made me want to go forward with it is because he didn't ask me for a picture.
mhm,
As in other brothers on the platform would be like, oh, can I see a picture and stuff, and I just felt so uncomfortable with that because I'm wearing Niqabi as well, so I just
mhm,
felt like they have access to it anytime. They can just go on it and go and look at it and show it to anyone else,
mhm,
and that was one of my fears. But yeah, so he was one of the out of all the brothers that I was communicating with, he was like the only one that literally did not ask for a picture or anything like that. So I just felt like this person's someone different, and I prayed istikhara on it, and I felt like I would like to go ahead with it. So he contacted my brother and my dad, and we had like a meeting in my house and stuff like that. And he saw me, he's like without my hijab. I mean, not sorry, with my hijab on, but like without my niqab.
yeah,
And yeah, I was dressed up but I wasn't dressed up all black as well. Like I was dressed
mhm,
up like I wore like a kaftan, like a loose kaftan and a nice hijab. Because there's different opinions on how you should look like when the guy comes to see you. So for me, like, I felt with that kind of opinion where you get to where you lose clothing but looking attractive as well, not just all plain, like all plain weather. So I did that, and and then we had that meeting 3-4 months, and then I purchased the harder, he did, and we wanted to go ahead right away with it, and we had a nikah done, and but we didn't live together until after the wedding day. So we had a year of planning, prepping for the walima, and after the wedding day, I moved in with my husband. I think that's in a nutshell in itself.
Allahumma barik. Sounds beautiful and amazing. Wow. So you only had one meeting before you
Oh,
actually.
Oh no, I had like we were communicating for like 2 months, and then after we had like 3-4 meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we just kind of just went ahead with it. I personally wouldn't advise that, but yeah. But anyways, I think at the time.
In what sense do you mean? Like, why wouldn't you advise that?
Okay.
Because it worked for you.
Okay. Yeah. I guess maybe some people probably won't agree with things I'm going to share, but I just feel like I was only 24 years old when I got to know my husband. We got married, and I just thought at the time when I used to go to talk, that is what they kind of presented in a way, like when you get to know someone, you basically bring the guy to the house and it's formal, and you have your meetings and you just ask questions like that, and then you kind of like get married kind of thing. I personally, looking back from my own experience, I can't talk for everyone else, but from my own experience, I would actually prefer to marry like someone that my brother did know, or like my friend's brother. I don't know, something like someone that ties me to it, that could actually vouch for this person's character. And because back then, like when I used to go to talks and stuff, all it was just about make sure he prays, make sure he's got a job, and that's it. Like that's all you should really ask for. So I was like, I personally would just marry someone I did know, and there is ways you can get to know someone in a permissible way. You don't really need to go behind doors and chit chat and like do all sorts like that what people do. There is like, if your family are okay with it and they know it, and then you're with someone, like say you got a brother who can come along with you, where you're not like at home as a setting, like say you go to a restaurant and your brother's there and the guy's there or something, so it's kind of feels like comfortable for both of you to be a bit open, like be comfortable. But I think but I feel like if you're just coming to the house and everyone just looking at you, it's just like, so like you can't actually bring up your personality. You feel like you just have to prepare to say the right words to kind of everyone to be like, oh, he's a good person, you should go ahead with him.
I see what you're saying, but I'm just thinking like from his perspective as well, because I mean, did he come alone or did he come with a friend?
Oh,
because that must have been quite difficult for him as well.
Yeah, because my husband is a reaver and his mom lives abroad. She lives in Japan. So and his dad, obviously he's kind of moved on, and he's got his own family. So he'd come on his own and stuff like that. And obviously like he was very nervous. You can clearly just show that he was really nervous himself. And I just feel like when you're in that setting, the person or you can't just be yourself, as in like for your personality to shine. And back then, like when I used to go to talks and stuff, that's what was basically thrown at in talks for you to do. So I just thought this is the right way. Other way is haram. There's nothing alternative than that. The guy just has to come to the house and have meetings, and that's it. You make up your mind and you get married, but it's just like you're thrown into the deep end. And also I was quite young. I was only like 24. Me being a 30-year-old woman now, like looking back, I just felt I was doing what I was told to do, because I've never been around Muslims and stuff. It's only when I started being practicing, I started going to talks in East London, and I started meeting all these people. Other than that, like so for me personally, I would actually if I was to remarry, like I personally would marry someone I personally took time out to actually understand who he is, how his background is like, what's his family structure like, how was he raised? Because these things play a part when you're living together. Which wasn't really spoken about back when I was single. All I was just told, as long as he prays, practicing, he's got the beard, yeah, that's it. You've
Wow.
got a great guy. Yeah. So me personally, yeah, and it's like, and you think like there's no options because that's what you've been told. But I just felt like now I just understood that it's all to do with, like, I feel like the speakers, they kind of speak in a way like part of their own culture, and they're trying to, I feel like they just personally bring it on like it's the religion. But I feel like with Islam, it's like there's not one way of doing things, there's always options. It's not quite rigid.
I agree with what you're saying, sister. But I think, subhanAllah, just listening to your story, and wallahi, it's very interesting. But I would think that for me personally, like in my experience, when I've had meetings with any brother, I would usually take my father with me, and he's not Muslim, but he would be the one to ask these kind of questions. Like he would ask the person about their family background, how was they raised, so all these kind of things, because that is the role that the family is supposed to play. So I'm a bit confused as to, like, I would expect that, because obviously the family usually would understand that the two people that are looking to get married are going to be very shy. So that's part of the benefits of having family there to kind of, they're supposed to kind of have your back when it comes to this kind of thing. Especially, I think from the girl side, I know in my experience, like sometimes if you go to meet somebody and you feel that you're interested in the person, like you see the brother and you think, oh, he's mashallah, you can become like dumbstruck sometimes. Like you don't even know what to say. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like,
you're a bit nervous as well, so
exactly. And especially like for sisters, like when we don't mix with men on the, it's not something we do like on a regular basis, and especially this kind of thing. So your family is there to kind of play that role, or a close friend, somebody who knows you very well, like that person will come along with you. Because my meetings haven't been like in my home or anything, but as I said, like when I've had meetings with brothers, I always just bring my dad with me, because I know that he's good at drilling people usually. Anyways, it hasn't always worked out like that. It hasn't always worked out like that, but alhamdulillah,
I think that's a blessing if you got that. Like for me, at the time when I was getting married, my parents were already divorced, so they didn't actually leave the marriage in a good place. So we kind of was like he basically kind of kept his distance away from us as well. So I really didn't really have that. I did have my brothers, but I don't think they even knew like what to even expect when it comes to a situation when your sister's getting married, because obviously that should have been on the dad. But so my brother's quite young. Like at the time I was 24, he was 25, so he doesn't think that much himself. So he just did what he thought was best, as well. So I guess some sisters probably don't have that. Like an uncle or a dad or someone to like ask us questions that is needed to kind of figure out what kind of person he is, what kind of background he is, because that really just plays a part. And so I only realized this after living with him, and obviously like he's been more open about his childhood, his lifestyle, how it was. And I realized that we're completely like different in the way we were raised, and just completely different in so much aspect, in different ways. It's like unbelievable. So I feel like you definitely need to ask questions like, how were the parents like? Was it a loving marriage? Even when they separated, how did it end? How was it like? Because that all does play a part. It's not spoken enough. Because some people could come with their own emotional baggage or traumas and all this kind of stuff that does play a part in the way they just are as well. So like all these things, I've only learned this from reading and watching a lot of. I think for me, what really helped me was listening to a lot of non-Muslim YouTubers talk about relationships, because they're so open and so what to kind of expect when you're in a relationship. What are boundaries? What are things you should accept from the other partner, especially with me. Like I've never been with a man before, except my husband.
Yeah.
So I had to just learn all these things from my own research as well. So and I've come to find that like there's a lot to it. It's not just about the person. It's like his things that he's brought into the marriage as well, like things he's experienced from his childhood that has an effect in the way you guys live together.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, wallahi, subhanAllah, you said so many things, and there's so much depth in what you've just said there. I just want to kind of, because I don't want this just to be a talk about how do we get married kind of thing, but to give some advice to those sisters who, like you said, like if you could do things again differently, I want to pick out those things that you've been mentioning, because I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you did mention, well, you've mentioned, mashallah, a lot of things, and you did pick up on basically the fact that your brothers were the ones that kind of helped you. But were your brothers married at the time as well?
Oh no, my brother was single. He was 25. He's a single boy. Yeah, he's a single at the time. Yeah.
So he was just a new thing for him. SubhanAllah, he really like it's like, and so obviously he's done his best as well. Like, but this is the thing where I feel like this is really important because obviously as your brother, he did his best. He played his role as much as he could, but he obviously didn't have that kind of experience as well. So it was a new thing for him too. And I think this is where when it comes to situations like this, it's beneficial, like you said, if you can have somebody else to vouch for the person, somebody who knows them. That's why I think it's beneficial to talk to somebody, maybe another brother from the masjid or the imam that he the masjid that he attends, for example. I mean, I don't know if you didn't mention if you did that or not, so I'm not sure about that, but this is one of the things that you can do.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the sheikh, like I recently heard, he was saying when it comes to marriage meetings, he said, don't think about the engagement, the nikah. Have a 6-month period where you're actually getting to know one another. He goes, within a 6 months, you are going to understand this person as much as possible, because obviously everyone does know once they're married and living, you're going to know more about the person, but at least you had those 6 months with no formal proposal, no engagement, no nikah, just really understanding this person and you as well. He can get understand of who you are, and within 6 months, it's like you're given enough time for both of you to be open to understand, like and you can see things in the person. You're thinking, actually, you know what? Like, I don't think we're actually good for one another. Maybe you look the part. Maybe you do X, Y, and Z, but like living wise, like as my life partner, like I don't really feel like we are going to be suitable in that area, which will play about a problem once we're living together. So, but I wasn't even given those kind of advice. I only learned this kind of after I was getting married and going through a lot of like marital problems, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And I just had to learn it this way. And I guess like everyone's journey is different. I guess some people may have their dads, they got their mom to tell them about marriage, about men. I personally didn't have that. I had to learn it in my own way. And I guess having is I feel it's good in a way, because now I've got my own daughter as well. So when she's looking to get married in the future, like I can able to give her all my experiences and things that I've gone through for her to learn and pick up from. And whether she chooses to do it that way is her personal choice. I can't can't really force it on her. I'm just
going to read one of the comments here, sister. Somebody says, in your face says, people forget between husband and wife is shaitan. I'm not sure about that. And so couples blame each other while shaitan laughs away. And this is true sometimes. And you know what? I think, like what I like that you've mentioned is that you've had to learn a lot of things in the marriage. And I think this is a key point that you've mentioned, because people think that, it doesn't matter how much you learn about somebody before you get married. You're never going to know them until you're married to them. That's the reality. This is like, for example, even when you see, in the non-Muslim culture, they live together because that's their way of getting to know each other. And so they don't want to get married, but they live together. So like you're trying each other out basically. And when you live with the person, then you will know the person. But
Yeah.
obviously we can't do that as Muslims, and if it doesn't make sense to me anyways. But the reality is, this is something that we need to take on board. You can come from exactly the same background as somebody; they could have been raised exactly the same as you, and you still don't
Yeah.
get along with them when you're living with each other. You still might not
Yeah.
be compatible. So there's so many things that come into play, and like being the same as somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to really complement each other. And
Of course.
that everything in life requires balance. So it's
Yeah.
that's the thing, like, learning is a big part of it. You have to learn how to adapt to the person, and marriage is give and take. It comes from both sides.
Yeah.
So I think this is really, really important. So
That is true.
it's really interesting, like, like all the things that you said, subhanAllah. Just like my mind is spinning now, because wallahi, you mentioned so many
Wow.
things, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a great point that you just made as well. Yeah. Like also personally, I just feel like I just feel like at least, I mean, like I do understand, like, with non-Muslim couples, like they know each other and then they live together, and sometimes it doesn't seem to work out.
mhm,
Um, um, like, but for me personally, like I just feel like at least if you know someone, like at
mhm,
least you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. But also I do understand that once you live with them, you're gonna like understand and see all the flaws and see who they are for the bigger picture. But I personally just feel like it's good for a woman to know who she's going to get married to as well, not just like someone who just prays and who looks the part and you think, okay, mashallah, let's get married, and you're literally just thrown into the deep end.
definitely. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. But at the same time, I think
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's all with Allah. There's only so much that
of
you can
course.
do,
Yeah.
because I see it even with like divorces these days. A lot of divorces are taking place, and
Hmm.
people being married to their own cousins, and they're still getting divorced. Do you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's, who can you know more than your own cousin? Like, it has somebody to
Of
get married to.
course.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like it happens. So
True.
I think the main thing with this isn't supposed to be a talk specifically on like advice in
Yeah.
marriage, but I think when you
Yeah.
are married, as I said, it's a give and take thing, and you both have to be willing to make the marriage work, because marriage does take work. You have to be like mature
Yeah.
enough to try to
Yeah.
adapt to what each
Definitely.
other likes. So I
Of course.
think like if we talk a little bit about questions, like since from your experience now that you've had, and I don't know if you did have specific questions that you asked the brother before getting married that you thought were beneficial, but what questions kind of would you advise for sisters to give
I
sort of
think
ask about a potential brother?
yeah, one thing I would say to any sister who's single or been married before, like one thing you shouldn't do is when you're engaging in terms of marriage with this person, like don't tell the other person, the other brother, that what you're expecting of a husband,
Hmm.
because like men are good at, once they know that they want to marry you, like
Hmm.
they would, the fact that you said, oh, I want basically a hardworking man who's basically is gonna take on a role as a father and a husband and take care of the financial household and stuff like that. Some guys are the sort of ones who would actually would want to go with a woman who actually, like when it comes to finance stuff, is like they're willing to they're looking for a woman who basically who want to pay 50-50 when it comes to the bills. But
Yeah.
once they find someone, like from my own experience, that once they find someone that they like, and then you're sitting there telling them, oh, okay, I want to, the guy that I'm looking to get married, he's like this and this, and then they would actually just pretend, like just say like, yeah, I'm like that, like I'm that kind of person.
Yes, I
So
agree
for
with you. I
me,
agree.
yeah, so I didn't even know this. I was single, so no one even I had friends who were married, like had children even before, by the time I got married, and they got married way before me. I wasn't even given no advice from them. So I was just literally just learning as I was going. Yeah, so never say what type of husband you're looking for, or what you're expecting, because men are really good at showing up as that, and showing up, yeah, showing up that they are that kind of person, because they want to basically marry you and they want to say the right words.
Yes.
Yes,
Sister
so
Anita
basically,
is saying here in the comments, she says, there are so
yeah.
many factors which come into play. This is why I can't understand why some take the marriage process so lightly. And in your face
Mm-hmm.
says, love the person you marry, not marry the person you love. And mashallah, I think that's a really good good
Yeah,
advice as well. SubhanAllah. And I mean, to be honest, like even with that
yeah,
comment, there's a hadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that there isn't any cure
yeah.
for two who love each other except marriage. So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
instead of like, like sometimes if you feel that you love a person, there's nothing wrong with loving a person before marriage, but it's
Oh
what you do
yeah,
with
definitely.
love. This is the thing. And I think sometimes,
Yeah,
as practicing Muslims, we kind of dismiss the idea of finding love before marriage or being in love with somebody and wanting to marry that person. But it is advisable to love that person. Obviously, the person should be a practicing Muslim. That's as well a condition, because you cannot just dive
yeah,
into a marriage blind and to think that, oh, the love's going to carry you through if the person is not even praying 5 times a day and they're not, practicing the religion properly. So there's just like Sister Anisa said, there's so many factors, but I
yeah,
wanted to come
definitely.
back
Like
to the
it's not
whole
one
kind of
thing.
the
Yeah.
issue about like kind of time scale, because I think some people, like you mentioned, that about 6 months to get to know somebody. So if you're going to take 6 months to get to know somebody in a marriage, you need to be really specific and precise. Try to like ask the actual serious questions, because I think sometimes people have this kind of that people have like ideas about who they want to get married to, or they'll be talking to somebody for lengthy periods of time. I come across sisters often who've been talking to brothers for years even, and they say that, oh, there's a really good guy and this and this, and it's just like, well, how long do you need to talk to somebody before you actually decide you want to marry them? I mean, if you're both really serious, so why take such a long time? Because it's not Islamic. I think six
Yeah.
months is a good length of time. And going past even a year, I just think it's, to be honest, it can be beyond ridiculous, because as I said, you're not going to actually really know the person until you're in the marriage with them anyway. So part of it is with Allah what's going to happen. So you cannot like stop yourself or protect yourself from a bad marriage, the possibility of a bad marriage, any kind of thing, by making it wait as long as possible, because you never know, the person could be doing a lot of things in that year while they're talking to you, or you're talking to them for 2 3 years. They could be talking to so many other people as well at the same time. Or who knows, if the person, maybe the brother is even married to somebody else, he could easily be hiding that while he's busy talking to you, and you're just kind of there discussing whether to get married or not. So there's so many different kind of things that could be happening. And I think sometimes sisters aren't aware of that fact as well. In your face
Yeah.
says, this dunya is illusion and not perfect. We are only here only temporarily. So having high expectations is a sour desire to have. Yes, definitely, I agree. So that's another thing. Like, we have to really put our faith and our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sister Anisa said, may Allah protect us from those who plot in this way. Definitely. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anissa said, I feel the same. 6 months is even quite long, in my opinion. There are only so many things you can learn through talking up to a certain point. Absolutely, I agree. And you know what? I think personally, one of the things that you mentioned that I really liked was that you did the
Yeah.
nikah, but you didn't actually move in with your husband until after you done your marriage, your wedding preparations. It was like a year later or something. You said. I personally
Yeah.
think
After
that,
the wedding day, yeah, after the wedding,
yeah,
I
I
moved in.
think I think that is beneficial in the sense that obviously once you've done nikah with somebody, you can have that
Mm-hmm.
kind of relationship with them. If you're not living with them, like it's still halal, but you can, obviously you can spend time with them by yourself, and you can kind of get to know them a little bit more intimately without having that kind of, your like full on dedication, because you're living with the person. So it's like a, I don't know, like almost like a cushion, if that makes sense. Like, you'll kind of
Yeah.
get like a little tester period, because I do know of
Yeah.
sisters who
But
they've done the
yeah.
nikah, for example, and obviously you're
Yeah.
not living with the person, so it's still not the same as living with them. But at least, as I said,
Yeah.
you can learn more about the person's temperament and things like that, because you'll have your own private discussions maybe with them and this kind of thing. So you can go a little bit deeper with them in that kind of aspect. Um, Obviously, as I said, it's not the
Uh,
same as being married, but I think that is potentially good, because if you do decide, then you've got a chance then to decide, well, actually, I don't feel comfortable with this person. You know, it's about instincts as well. I think to some point you should trust your instinct, because maybe what the beauty or what attracted you to the person that you saw initially, maybe once you've done nikah with them, if you have that period that you're not living together, but you can actually spend time with them, going out with them by yourselves, this kind of thing, you can kind of see, you know, you can look out for signs and see, you know, what this person is about a little bit more.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I guess everyone's experience is different. Say if they've done a nikah stage for 1 or 2 years, I know like people even done 2 years, you know. I guess like I think when you're in that nikah stage and it's still like fresh and new, like it's still kind of like the honeymoon phase. Even though you're not living together, you probably just meet up. Because with me personally, we were just meeting up after work. He'll come pick me up from my house at 6 in the evening or 7 in the evening, and we'll go out for a meal, and then he'll drop me home, and then that's how it was the whole year. But I guess like it's just still like it was literally still like the honeymoon stage. So like when it comes to that stage, it's like everyone's obviously so like happy and jolly, and it's like because you're not living together as well and you don't really know the person. It's like they're just going to really show you like the best self and who they are. And obviously like you said that you can't obviously call it quits during those times, you know, like, but for me personally, just like I guess maybe some people who've gone through that stage where they do a nikah stage and they feel like you know, like he seems the part, wherever we seem good, and they carry on living with this person and it seems like nothing's really changed. He's still kind of like the same person that he portrayed himself like. He's still like that. We still have issues that we're trying to work on, but he didn't he didn't basically present himself in the way that he was doing, and then once you start living with a person, it's like a complete different person.
I think that's one of the scariest things for sisters. And you know, this is
I
just want to read a couple of points here that Sister Malahat has made, and I really love what she's saying. Actually, she said that it's very personal and specific, and she said she's against generalizing everything because when it comes to marriage, definitely you cannot generalize. For some people, 2 days is enough, and for others, even 6 months isn't. That's another thing. Like everybody is different, but my point here, I think the strongest thing I would like to say is that definitely you need to ask the right questions, because there's certain questions that you can ask that will give you a kind of a good idea about the person. You need to know what the person's character is like, their personality. And I think that's really important, like try to figure out the compatibility, and especially what you mentioned, part of that could be as well to do with how they was raised, their family upbringing, and as you said, baggage that they could be bringing into their marriage as well because of that. Something I heard Sheikh, whenever I try to mention somebody's name, wallahi, just goes from my mind. Shadid Muhammad, Shadid Muhammad, he said, you know, sometimes when you like, you know, when you're looking for a spouse, it's important, like the family kind of dynamic that they've been brought up in and which placement they are in. Like if they're a single child, for example, are they the oldest child? Are they the youngest? Are they the middle child? Because wallahi, depending on where you are in that kind of setup, this can all affect how your mentality is, how you kind of interact with people, you know, what you expect in a partner, what you're kind of looking for, what you feel that you was missing as a child that you want from your spouse. All these things kind of come into play. So sometimes maybe it's not advisable basically for somebody who was an oldest child to marry somebody else who is also an oldest child, because you could be that you're both two people that you like to be in control, you like to be in charge of things, you know, and then maybe you could have some clashing in these kind of because of that, for example. Do you know what I mean? So there's different things. Sorry, there's a lot of comments that's coming flooding in here now. Sister Rasha says the most scary thing about getting married to someone is the lying period before the marriage, and suddenly after you discover everything and you have to deal with it. SubhanAllah, this is so true, sister.
Oh my God, thank you for mentioning that.
SubhanAllah, it's definitely true, and that's why the sister she mentioned in the beginning, that's why it's good to marry somebody who at least maybe a family member knows this person,
that's so true.
or
No, she's right.
somebody that's close to you knows of that person. She
Oh
said,
yes, definitely.
how do you know that the person is
Yeah.
pretending? Yeah, subhanallah. Yeah, the thing is, and we don't sometimes,
And
I
she is
would say
right.
like you really don't sometimes. Wallahi, like, I'm a divorcee myself, so I can definitely attest to that. Like, subhanallah,
Yeah.
one of the things that I liked about, for example, my ex-husband,
Yeah.
I always loved the fact he was always talking about his family and talking about how much he
Yeah.
loves his family and subhanallah. And then
Okay.
when we did get married, then subhanallah, when I saw how he was treating his family, I was literally shocked. I was just like, subhanallah, this is the
Hello.
family. Like, how are you treating them? So like you see these
Yeah.
kind of things, and you don't know until you're in it. And there's at that time there's not really anything that you can do, subhanallah.
Yeah,
Um,
subhanallah, like yeah, like that sister. I mean, you just made a great point there. So
subhanallah. Okay, greenery has said nikah for 2 years plus another bid'ah is being created. No, I don't. I wouldn't call it a bid'ah actually, because if you look at the sunnah, there's lots of examples of people getting married or having their nikah but not living with each other.
yeah, that's so true.
Straight
Yeah,
away. If you look at the sunnah,
yeah,
there's plenty of
there is
examples
a
of that.
waiting
Because a lot of
period.
people would get married, they wasn't even in the same country. So there's different reasons why you would, perhaps not live with the person immediately. And there can be very
Yeah.
valid reasons for that as well. So I wouldn't agree that it's a bid'ah, definitely not. Greenery also says this is very messy. I know people lived in haram relationship for 6+ years, even 10 years, and then got married and didn't last. Absolutely, 100% agree. I see this all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
A lot of celebrities do that
yeah,
as well. This is like staple. They'll be living together 15 years, got 10 children.
yeah,
You've been
yeah,
doing the husband, you've been doing the role of husband, or she's been doing the role of wife, and then they get married,
yeah,
and then it's divorce after like 6 months or something. And subhanallah, for me personally, when I
yeah,
see these things, I even ask myself, why are they even getting married? What is even the point now? What is going to change? You've done all those
yeah.
roles of no, okay. One cognita says, "How about polygamy?" No, we're not entering that discussion today. Subhanallah, it's a
I
big
wouldn't. I
topic.
can't
I
speak.
mean,
I can't speak for
marriage
that.
itself
So,
is
yeah, I
oh,
can't really speak for that. Yeah.
yeah, subhanallah. I mean, obviously, it's a big topic. I just want to quickly say a few
Yeah.
last closing points because we're coming to the end. And subhanallah, sister,
Okay.
I'm sad that we had the technical difficulties in the beginning because wallahi, you said so many things which I really feel have benefited the listeners, inshallah. Obviously, just sharing your own
Alhamdulillah.
personal experience and just the things that you highlighted. So I just want to share some questions that I think is beneficial when you are talking to a future or potential spouse. And don't take just these few questions because there's a lot more.
Okay.
Look at. I would advise you look at the lectures of Sheikh Shadid Mohammed. He's really really good. I haven't listened to all of his talks, but he has a whole series on marriage itself. So really, just look at that because wallahi, he's very practical and he goes into depth, like real depth about these things. Because as I said, marriage is not something that even you can ask the 100 million questions and still when you're married it's going to be something completely different. So subhanallah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
guess
so
everyone's got their own
yeah,
journey. So,
yeah, subhanallah, it's true, it is a journey, and it's a test that Allah says
yeah.
in the Quran that
Yeah.
your family is fitna for you, they're a trial for you. So we can't
Yeah.
expect that we're going to get married and everything's going to be fine and dandy, subhanallah.
Yeah.
So my questions that I would ask the person, or some questions that I personally, from talking to the sister today, that I think is really, really important. To
Mm-hmm.
ask the person about their family background. How were they raised? What are
Yeah.
their fondest childhood memories? And
Yeah.
what childhood memories do they have which they feel has impacted their life in a really serious way? What are the childhood memories that that they don't like, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the sister, okay, she's a sister here, Miriam, is asking, what about reverts? Well, yeah, I'm a revert, and sister is married to a revert as well. So this is what we've been discussing. It all goes the same, to be honest. It's not like reverts have a different rule. Um,
Yeah. I definitely do that.
so it's all the same, basically. A person is a person. Doesn't matter whether the person is a revert or they've been Muslim their whole lives, practicing brother. I know some sisters have married to practicing brothers, subhanAllah, and they've had the worst of marriages, and that they've been
Yeah.
subhanAllah that had the worst personalities. And
Yeah.
this is not to say that practicing brothers are bad necessarily, but you don't know. Like sometimes people have these experiences, and because the person is practicing as well, it makes Islam look bad. That's what is sad about it. If somebody's a Muslim but just a kind of maybe not much practicing Muslim, and they happen to not be a very good spouse, you could say, well, oh, they weren't practicing. But when the person is practicing and they're first line in the masjid praying, and always, you know what I mean, and then they go home and they don't treat their wife, and their family good, then this makes Islam look bad. That's the reality, and it's really sad that actually happens, subhanallah. So another question that I would ask, and definitely childhood questions are really good. Okay, so try to ask as much questions about the person's childhood as possible.
Can I just add a point as well? Just one point.
Yes, of course.
One thing I would add, which is so essential as well, because obviously, like, the husband is the one, like, basically is the one going to be the one providing for the home.
Absolutely.
And look at so obviously he's given that high status for a reason. So I personally would look at not what he tells you, but how was his dad like in the home? Was he the one providing? How was his uncle, his brothers, his cousin? I mean, mainly the elderly, like uncles and the dad. What kind of, how were they basically providing for their wives? Because if he's around, brought up, and that's his environment where his uncles and his dad are the one providing, going out the way for the family. When you actually get married to that person, it's like, it's something normal to him. It's not something he feels like, oh, this feels like a burden, or like it feels like something completely new, and he feels like this is too much for me, and just like it literally does affect the marriage in itself. So that is one thing. No one, like when I was single, like no one actually like spoke to me about what kind of questions like these, like that you even mentioned as well. No one actually spoke to me. Even the questions online about your potential spouse, there was nothing along about family. So,
and
so
family
is
so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
And we didn't even touch on the element of living with the person's family, because in some cultures it's expected that when they do get married, the wife is going to move in and live with the brother's family. And that's another kettle of fish, like altogether. SubhanAllah, it's another thing that can cause a lot of problems, because sometimes families can be the reason why the marriage even breaks down. SubhanAllah.
Of course.
I just want to quickly read a couple more comments. Greenery says, just make sincere dua and go as you live with understanding and in giving and forgive. Bigger is jihad and nafs, as it does really affect what you see outside, especially Western countries. Very challenging, I think they're trying to say there. Dr. says, yes, agree. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, who came for marriage and have the religion and manners, not just one of them, it must have both. Yes, you have to have both, definitely. The deen is manners, like subhanallah. So this is really important. My sister, we've come up to the hour now, so we have to end the session, but if you want to carry on chatting with me, we can carry it on Instagram, inshallah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, inshallah.
All right then, because I think there's another show that's supposed to be starting now, inshallah. So anybody who is on Instagram, you can follow the Niqabi Diaries or join us here, and we carry on the discussion, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.